respect and cooperation between the governments of the United States and India, and strengthens our partnership in addressing the issue of the protection and restitution of cultural treasures. This agreement aligns with the 1970 UNESCO Convention on the means of prohibiting and preventing the illicit import, export, and transfer of ownership of cultural property. Both India and United States are parties to this convention, demonstrating a shared commitment to this vital cause. This cultural property agreement spotlights the urgent need of protecting and preserving archaeological and ethnological materials integral to our cultural identity and creativity, the critical importance of preventing the illicit trafficking of such materials, and the shared desire to foster greater cooperation and mutual understanding in cultural heritage matters. With this, I have the honor of inviting Shri Govind Mohanji, Secretary, Ministry of Culture, Government of India, and His Excellency Eric Garcetti, Ambassador of the United States of America to India, to kindly come forward to sign the agreement which shall reinforce the bilateral partnership between our two nations. Thank you, Excellencies. I now request the dignitaries to resume their seats on the dais. Now, I would like to invite Shri Govind Mohanji, Secretary, Ministry of Culture, to deliver his remarks.
Honorable Minister in the Government of India for Culture and Tourism, Shri Gajen Singh Shekhawat ji, His Excellency Ambassador of the United States to India, Mr. Eric Garcetti, colleagues from Ministry of External Affairs, Ministry of Culture, ASI, and the Government of the United States and the US Embassy in New Delhi, friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen. Today is a day of immense pride and satisfaction for us for having concluded this historic agreement between the world's oldest democracy and the world's largest democracy, which aims to provide a framework that can become a model for the entire world, for the entire globe, for repatriation of stolen, smuggled, illegally taken away antiquities and civilizational wealth of countries. We join hands with the United States of America today in this important endeavor that transcends borders and underscores our shared commitment towards protecting cultural artifacts from illicit trafficking. The Cultural Property Agreement is aligned with the 1970 UNESCO Convention on the means of prohibiting and preventing the illicit import, export, and transfer of ownership of cultural property, to which both countries are state parties. This agreement acknowledges the need to protect and preserve archaeological and ethnological material, which reflects the identity, creativity, and collective memory of our people, and emphasizes the importance of preventing the illicit trafficking of such material which contributes to the loss of irreplaceable artifacts. The preservation and protection of Indian artifacts and cultural heritage has emerged as an integral component of India's foreign policy over the last decade. The Government of India, under the enlightened leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, has been committed towards this issue and has adopted a proactive approach towards bringing back Indian artifacts and cultural heritage from various parts of the world. We can take delight in the fact that since 2014, when Shri Narendra Modi assumed office as the Prime Minister of India, we have repatriated almost 350 artifacts from all across the world. This compares favorably, very, very favorably, with the number of around 15, which used to be the total number that had been repatriated since our independence till 2014. Many countries, particularly those in the global south, have called for the return and restitution of cultural property that was unethically appropriated. The return of material heritage is crucial, not just for rekindling connections with our intangible or living heritage traditions, but for undoing historical wrongs, fostering contemporary self-expression, and shaping future ethos. Under India's G20 presidency, the Kashi Cultural Pathway, the outcome document of the Culture Working Group, also outlines that heritage crimes deprive communities of their identities, knowledge systems, and livelihoods. The New Delhi Leaders' Declaration of 2023 unanimously endorsed the positioning of culture as a standalone goal in the post-2030 development agenda and has once again highlighted the significance of a strong multilateral resolve to wage a collective fight against illicit trafficking. With the signing of this historic document, we reaffirm our commitment to ethical stewardship, international cooperation, and dialogue. Let us heed the voices of communities whose cultural heritage has been dispersed across borders and work collaboratively to ensure that future generations inherit a world where cultural diversity is cherished, protected, and celebrated. And last but not the least, let me acknowledge and appreciate the hectic, relentless, behind-the-scenes work done by the officials from the US government, the US Embassy in India, our Ministry of External Affairs, my colleagues in the Ministry of Culture, to have ensured that this day becomes possible. This is happening on the sidelines of the 46th World Heritage Committee, and that makes it even more meaningful. Once again, thank you to all of you who have helped to make this day a reality, and we wish this endeavor of bringing back illicit properties to countries from across the globe a very successful outcome in the days and years ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. May I now invite His Excellency Eric Garcetti, Ambassador of the United States of America to India, to offer his remarks.
Thank you so much, and namaskar, and a good afternoon to all of you. And let me start first by congratulating India on being such incredible hosts. Twice I've witnessed in my short time as the United States ambassador here, the warmth, the depth, the breadth, the example of what it means to host the world. First here in these spaces at G20 last year, and now at the 46th UNESCO World Heritage Committee, this Congress that you've brought together, shows that India is a fabulous place to bring the world together, a place where everybody can feel a piece of the past, can witness the present, and view just maybe our future collectively. So congratulations for a marvelous hosting this entire week to the Prime Minister and to the entire team. Please, a round of applause for our Indian hosts. And to Honorable Minister of Culture, Sri Jajendra Singh Shekhawatji, thank you very much for your leadership as well. I know stepping in at the highest level in a short period of time, you've already distinguished your leadership. And thank you, Secretary of Culture Mohan, for your great words and the way you have helped guide this day to be a reality with your team and the Ministry of External Affairs as well. Thank you to Joint Secretary Pandya, and thank you to Ambassador Maines, who is our representative here from the U.S. mission to UNESCO, and the entire U.S. mission in UNESCO, who every single day works not only on American culture globally, but also works on global culture to be a voice for days like this where we can bring justice and connect cultures across the Indo-Pacific and our globe. So thank you. We're indebted to you for your leadership. To know Indian culture is to know human culture. This is not just the culture of a single country, subcontinent, or civilization. It is human culture. But it must be where it comes from to be fully understood in context. The colonial experience here in India meant that much was taken from India. At the time pre-colonial, the richest economy in the world, a place that has been the birthplace of religions, of cultures, of languages for millennia. And we as the United States stand in awe of that as a partner who understands that history, who has joined India in its fight for independence as a voice to say that India once again should be a proud republic, now the world's largest democracy. But independence did not bring everything back to India that India deserved. This cultural property agreement is about two things. First and foremost, it's about justice. It's about returning to India and to Indians what is theirs. But it also is, secondly, about connecting India with the world. Because every American and every global citizen who is not Indian deserves to know and to see and to feel the culture that we celebrate here today. And this agreement will allow us to legally be able to share that art, not in a way that steals and that takes, but that is given and shared again. And that's really what culture should be about for all human beings. The United States has been unwavering in our commitment to protect and to preserve cultural heritage around the world, and to make sure that trafficking, illegal trafficking in cultural property is stopped anywhere and wherever we can. At the beginning of the session, we heard of all of the pieces that the Prime Minister and Director General were looking at just upstairs here. And I have to say, the United States won the award for the most returned pieces, which means that a lot of people took art that shouldn't have come to the United States, to the United States. But whether it's law enforcement, whether it's political leaders, whether it's diplomats, we have a consensus to make sure we turn that page together. And while it's easy for the Secretary and I to sign the agreement, it seems like an easy thing to do. We know how painful the process of putting down the paragraphs of any agreement is. And I'm so indebted to our people, both Indian and American, who worked so hard to get it right and to make sure that this easy day for us as leaders really has the substance behind it. The U.S.-India Cultural Property Agreement was negotiated by the State Department under the U.S. law implementing the 1970 UNESCO Convention on the means of prohibiting and preventing the illicit import, export, and transfer of ownership of cultural property. It's a long title, but it's a really important convention. And with this, we're proud that India joins the ranks of 29 existing U.S. bilateral cultural property agreement partners. It's clear to me in my year and a half here that Americans love Indians and that Indians love Americans. But beyond the cultural ties, the educational ties, the tourists that we have on both sides, the deepening strategic relationship, economic trade that we have, all of those areas, at the end of the day, we want to know each other and know each other better. And this puts us on the road to that. 30 cultural property agreements worldwide do that for Americans with many friends and partners around the world. Civilizations that have been around much longer than even the first inhabitants of the Americas. Places where we can learn that history, see that evolution, understand the beliefs, witness the art, and stand in awe of the human growth of our family collectively in history. And when we talk about a cultural property agreement, many people tend to focus on just the restrictive aspects, as I mentioned, the bringing of justice and the returning of items. But now that this is signed, and while that is well underway, we now look at the opportunities to connect. And I want to tell you a story about that. Last year, the world-famous Metropolitan Museum of Art, perhaps one of the 2 or 3 most famous museums of art in the world, in New York City hosted an exhibit called The Tree and the Serpent. It was a beautiful exhibition of Indian art from early Buddhism, which of course India is the birthplace of. The exhibit showcased 125 objects, from 200 before the Common Era to 400 after the Common Era, that represented the religious landscape of ancient India and how it was transformed by the teachings of Buddha, which in turn inspired art devoted to expressing his message. I was there with Indians and Americans and people from third countries from around the world. And when we got to go in and see that art, and by the way, it was no easy bureaucratic accomplishment for India because I think there were 5 states involved. And trust me, as a former local official, I know getting everybody to agree, to loan, to be a part of that meant that everybody had to have the same vision. We saw that the most sublime imagery and some of the most beautiful art I've ever witnessed. In fact, the book of art is in my ambassador's office, and I get to look at it every single day here. But that the vast majority of Americans and visitors to New York from other countries too might never have seen. That really is the end goal of this agreement. Not just to return to India what is yours, but then for you to have the opportunity to share that with the world on your terms, not on anyone else's terms. We witnessed the faces of museum visitors who opened up possibilities and worlds to their own narrative and their own future. So bringing the world to the doorstep of those who only know their small city or state is why the protection and sharing of our cultural property is so important. Today, the United States and India celebrate the inscribing of 2 new World Heritage sites, the incredible tombs in Assam that I can't wait to visit, that I congratulate India on, and for us, a 3-country with UK and Germany, Moravian cultural community that was recognized too. I have to admit, I had never even heard about that, even though it was in my own country. And I'm sure that many Indians want to know all about the tombs that exist in Assam and want to visit them as well. When we open up the pages of culture, we open up our brains, our hearts, our very souls to understanding what human existence is, not the things that divide us in a world that seeks to do that so often, but the things that unite us. And I'm very proud the work that we have done here in India with our government partners at the central level and at the state level to bring back crafts that were lost, to bring back beautiful things from Humayun's tomb here in Delhi, to when I was in Hyderabad and witnessed workers who were inscribing screens in art that had been lost, but together with Central Asian artisans came back to be able to establish a new generation of Indians who can do that and preserve that. We've invested almost $3 million in the documentation, the conservation, the restoration of 24 key historic sites and intangible heritage in India. And I have to say, talking to past ambassadors, it might not sound like a lot of money. It's the thing that we remember among the very most that we get to work on, because one day we can come back and see how that's restored for all human beings. So congratulations to the government of India, to the Prime Minister, to this government in having the vision. The statistics spoke for themselves, to return to India what is Indian, but also to return to the world what is human as well. Thank you. Dhanyavad.
Thank you very much, Excellency, for your inspiring words. I now have the honor of requesting Shri Gajendra Singh Shekhawat ji, Honorable Union Minister of Culture and Tourism, Government of India, to address the gathering.
His Excellency Eric Garcetti, Ambassador of United States of America to India, Shri Govind Mohan, Secretary, Ministry of Culture, Government of India, the Chairperson of the World Heritage Committee, Mr. Vishal Sharma, my colleagues from the Ministry of Culture, External Affairs, Archaeological Survey of India, from the media, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Today is a big day, and it is going to be encrypted in the golden letters in the history when both of the countries, United States and India, are signing this monumental agreement after having successfully inscribed the sites in the World Heritage List. Ladies and gentlemen, our tangible heritage not only navigates us to the latent linkages with the intangible, but also defines our history and identity. It embodies the ingenuity, creativity, and diverse expressions of human experience. Whether ancient artifacts, sacred sites, or traditional knowledge, cultural heritage forms the foundation upon which our societies build their present and the future. Today we have witnessed the signing of a historic agreement between the United States of America and India on the sidelines of 46th session of the World Heritage Committee meeting, designed to prevent the illegal trafficking of cultural property and enhance cooperation on its protection and lawful exchange. This cultural property agreement has been a shared vision of Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji and His Excellency President Joe Biden, which were discussed as a matter of strategic focus and priority during the Prime Minister Modi's visit to the United States in June 2023. The unethical appropriation, armed conflicts, theft, and illicit trafficking of cultural property erode our collective memory, depriving communities the right to access and share their heritage. The call for the return and restitution of antiquities to their countries of origin reflects an evolving global consciousness that recognizes the importance of cultural property as an integral part of countries and communities' identities, cultural assets, pride, and socio-economic development. The repatriation of cultural properties is not a merely matter of policy, but touches upon the very essence of our shared humanity and global responsibility. The return of artifacts to their countries of origin represents a crucial step towards rectifying historical injustices and restoring cultural integrity. It acknowledges the rights of communities to reclaim and safeguard their heritage, reaffirming their autonomy in defining and preserving their cultural identities. It fosters reconciliations, mutual understanding, and healing, paving the way for stronger global partnerships rooted in respect of solidarity. Ladies and gentlemen, the prevention and protection of the Indian artifacts and cultural heritage has emerged as an integral component of India's foreign policy over the last decade. The government of India, under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Modi, has been committed towards this issue and has adopted a proactive approach towards bringing back Indian artifacts from various parts of the world. India has repatriated 350 antiquities since 1976. Out of these, 345 have been retrieved since 2014 under the leadership of Honorable Modi ji. Under India's G20 presidency, the protection and promotion of cultural property emerged as one of the main topical priorities, reflecting the core concerns of the culture sector globally, particularly those of the global south. The Kashi Cultural Pathway, the outcome document of the G20 Cultural Working Group, unanimously endorsed and called for a strengthened and effective global coalition to bolster the fight against the illicit trafficking of cultural property. This commitment of the membership to strengthen the fight against illicit trafficking of cultural property at national, regional, or international levels to enable its return and restitution to their countries and communities of origin was reiterated in New Delhi's Leaders' Declaration in 2023. The Cultural Property Agreement signed between India and the United States of America today is a culmination of year-long bilateral discussions and negotiations held on the sidelines of G20 Cultural Working Group meetings and the groundbreaking endorsement of culture as a standalone goal in the post-23 development framework in the New Delhi's Leaders' Declaration, making a paradigm shift in the global development strategy. This historical milestone of the cultural goal underscoring the impact of culture on social inclusion and economic growth, galvanizing global action to nurture creativity intercultural dialogue, and empowering marginalized communities, safeguarding vulnerable heritage, and fostering resilient and inclusive societies. I believe that the subject of repatriation is not merely a moral imperative, but also a practical investment in cultural diplomacy and sustainable development. By returning artifacts to their countries of origin, we nurture cultural stewardship, promote tourism, and stimulate economic growth within local communities. This process empowers us, nations to leverage their cultural assets for educational enrichment, social cohesion, and economic empowerment, thereby fostering inclusive and sustainable development of pathways. As the world seeks sustainable and inclusive growth models, India's cultural creative economy offers a blueprint for leveraging heritage and creative for the greater good, benefiting not just India but the entire world by promoting cross-cultural understanding and sustainable development. Honorable Prime Minister's vision of Vikas Bhi and Virasat Bhi and the Viksit Bharat Vision 2047 endorse the endless possibilities of the culture creative economy to foster vibrant and inclusive ecosystems, unlock new pathways of growth and sustainability, and transform our economies and societies while preserving our cultural heritage. The exhibition Readdress, the Return of Treasures showcase as the part of 46th World Heritage Committee, which was mentioned by His Excellency Ambassador, initiates an open and inclusive dialogue. The long contested historical and global issues of repatriation and restitution of cultural property through an object-based exhibition, and highlights successful stories of repatriation of cultural heritage to Bharat and across the globe. The exhibition hopes to build global consensus awareness for strengthening the existing mechanism for preventing illicit trafficking of cultural property. Today, the signing of the Cultural Property Agreement between India and the United States of America marks a pivotal moment in our efforts. This agreement reinforces our commitment to combating the illegal trade in cultural property and ensuring the return of stolen artifacts to their rightful home. It lays down a framework for cooperation, exchange of information, and mutual assistance, setting a precedent for global partnerships in the preservation of cultural heritage. I extend my heartfelt gratitudes to our counterparts in the United States of America for their unwavering support and cooperation in this endeavor. I would also like to congratulate India's G20 Cultural Working Group and the Archaeological Survey of India for their proactive and sustained efforts towards actualizing this agreement. Together we send a resounding message that cultural heritage belongs to humanity as a whole and must be preserved for future generations. In closing, let us remember that the true measure of our commitment to cultural property and repatriation lies not in the words alone, but in our collective actions. Together, let us forge a future where every culture is valued, every artifact is honored, and every community is empowered to safeguard its precious heritage. Thank you very much, and congratulations to all of you.
Thank you very much, sir, for addressing the gathering. Now, I would like to thank Ambassador Garcetti for being with us today. We will now open the floor to our friends from the media for their questions for Honorable Minister and the Secretary. Media representatives are requested to please keep the questions brief and relevant to the occasion.
Eric, why don't you join
Hello, sirs. Could you give us some information on which artifacts exactly are going to be repatriated from the US to India?
Long list which is pending in the United States, and having signed this agreement, now it will be easier to bring more, because but to bring back an artifact or in any to bring back any artifact or any cultural heritage to its origin, the country of origin, there is a long process, as it was mentioned by His Excellency Ambassador during his speech. And we have to engage with many of the agencies across the country and across the world. So having signed this agreement, now it will be easier to coordinate all these things to bring back the cultural properties to the country of origin, or in India, the cultural properties belongs to India to in our country.
But are there any specific items that India is looking to retrieve from the
As I have
US?
said, that there is a long list which is ready to be repatriated in India from United States.
Thank you, sir.
Some precious properties are Britain, England. Is there any similar plan to have tie up with them for retrieving those artifacts?
So we are working, Government of India under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji, it's a priority. And you can witness this with the success what we have achieved in last 10 years. As I mentioned in my speech also, that in last last 10 years, we were able to bring back more than 343 artifacts to our country. Otherwise, since 1972 to the day when Modi ji has occupied the chair of the Prime Minister, as the Prime Minister, only 14 artifacts were brought back to our country. So it is a priority. More than 250 artifacts which have been identified and marked to be repatriated from United States.
So Vrinda from Hindustan Times. So my question was that is this agreement, of course it has been signed with the US, but is it exclusive to the USA, or will you both also be working with other countries to bring back the artifacts?
This is exclusively for the United States, but it is important in these terms that it is going to pave a further path for whole of the world to get into these type of arrangement or agreements to bring back, to restitute the cultural properties which are lying in each other's country.
So this is Kunal from PTI. A two-part question. How many items are on the list as per this agreement? As in, once the agreement gets into force, how many items will be actually repatriated? Number one. Yes, sir. And the fact that you also mentioned in your speech about the erosion of cultural memory, and many of these repatriated artifacts are being sent to their native states, like in Maharashtra, the Bagnak we just saw. Is there a plan to send it to the respective states, or is there a bigger plan to perhaps have a museum of repatriated items? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And to answer your first part of question, that whether this agreement has some list of artifacts. So it is not a agreement for particular items. It is a general agreement. Otherwise, 297 artifacts are lying in United States. They are ready to be repatriated. And after having this agreement in place, it will be easier to repatriate, and for the futures also, it is going to pave path for smoother repatriation of the artifacts from United States to India or vice versa. As far as the display of repatriated artifacts is concerned, It is approach of the government of India that they should primarily to be given to the states which they are originated from, but still, since we are constituting museums all across the country also, and some museums of repatriated goods in Delhi also, so that the conscious decision will be taken up after the discussions and deliberations in the ministry.
Sir, Adarsh from All India Radio. Sir, can you please give us the timeline on how long it will take to bring these items back?
It's a continuous process. It's not only about one treasure or one stolen or one illegally taken any cultural property. It's a long, long list, and it is a continuous process which is going to go along. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. As we bring today's landmark event to a close, I extend our heartfelt gratitude to everyone who has joined us with their presence and participation. A special thank you to our Honorable Minister for his inspirational leadership, and Secretary, Ministry of Culture, for his dedicated efforts in facilitating this agreement, Mr. Ambassador for playing a crucial role in this partnership. To all the distinguished dignitaries, officials of the ministries and the US state government, the media representatives, your engagement and support have made this occasion truly memorable.